Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, those that are here in the chamber. My name is Stan Fleming on behalf of the UP City Council. I'm calling this regular meeting of the UP City Council's meeting for Monday, July 6th, 2026 to order. With that said, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Figueroa.
Present.
Councilmember Boykin.
I'm here.
Councilmember Cunningham is excused. Councilmember Wood.
Present.
Councilmember Grassi.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey.
I'm here.
And Mayor Fleming.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's move quickly to item number 3, the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Councilmember Figueroa if he'd please lead us.
Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a relatively light schedule tonight, so if we get through all our items, we might get out a little early to enjoy the great weather that's out there for all of us. So we'll move to item number 4, the approval of the agenda. I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as proposed.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Are there any objections to adopting the agenda as amended? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Let's move to item number 5, presentations. Tonight, this is kind of a cool thing for the summer, but we're going to have the National Ice Cream Day proclamation that we're having. Tonight to receive that is Azrael Kerr of Bliss, a small batch ice cream creamery here in our town center. To present that is Councilmember Grassi.
National Ice Cream Day. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you to Bliss. I'm so grateful that you're right here in our Market Square, one of our wonderful small businesses. So thank you for being here tonight. We so appreciate it. And I encourage everyone in the chambers this evening, watching online, to visit Bliss. They have creative flavors and all natural ingredients. So it's really a treat to bring your kiddos in there. It's an extra added bonus. So let me read this proclamation on behalf of our city. Whereas the origins of ice cream trace back centuries with early forms of frozen desserts enjoyed in ancient civilization, including flavored ices in Persia and China, and later evolving in Europe into ice cream-based delicacies cherished by royalty. And whereas ice cream was introduced into the United States in the 18th century and steadily became a popular treat, eventually transforming into an accessible and widely enjoyed dessert through advancements in refrigeration and mass production. And whereas in 1984, President Ronald Reagan officially designated July as National Ice Cream Month and the third Sunday of July as National Ice Cream Day, recognizing the treat as a fun and wholesome food enjoyed by over 90% of the nation's population. And whereas ice cream has long been one of the most beloved desserts enjoyed by people of all ages and backgrounds for its simple ability to bring joy, and whereas ice cream serves as a symbol of celebration, marking special occasions, summer gatherings, and everyday moments shared with family, friends, and communities. And whereas the ice cream industry supports local businesses, artisans, dairy farmers, and entrepreneurs, contributing to economic vitality while inspiring culinary innovation. And whereas taking time to enjoy life's small pleasures, such as a scoop of ice cream, promotes happiness, connection, and well-being. Now, therefore, let it be known that July 19th, 2026 is hereby recognized as National Ice Cream Day, a day to delight in history and shared experiences that ice cream brings into our lives. Proclaimed by the City Council of the City of University Place, Washington on July 6, 2026, and signed by our Mayor Fleming. Congratulations. Wonderful day to celebrate ice cream, right? And a small business. Would you like to say anything about Bliss?
I just want to say on behalf of Bliss Small Batch Creamery, thank you so much. This is so exciting for us. We love, one of our top missions is to give back to the community, and it's awesome to be recognized in this way. And so I just want to thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Does that mean we all gather over at Bliss after council tonight for ice cream? All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. All right, let's move to item number 6 on the agenda. This is public comment, and now is the time for public comment, which is on the portion of our agenda. This is an opportunity for members of the public to provide comment to the City Council about any items that are not appearing on the agenda or on the consent agenda. For those that are joining us online, the instructions on how to participate are shown on the screen. And with that, we're going to take public comment. We do have some folks who've signed up here in the chamber tonight. I'd like to welcome Sherry Mapes. And Sherry, we're going to have you, where did the table go? Over here. You have 3 minutes, if you would. And if you speak very close to the mic, if you could, for us, please, so we can hear you up here. And then if you'd state your name and address for the record.
No.
No. You got it almost like you're eating the mic. Even closer.
There's an ice cream joke in there somewhere.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
My name is Cherie Mapes, and my address is 6509 87th Avenue Court West here in University Place. So I wanted to say good evening to the mayor and the council members. I did provide you with an 18-page document here that I'm going to go ahead and talk about. So again, I live on 87th Avenue Court West. There are 7 homes located on this street. And so in this document, we're here to ask your help to address a foreseeable and preventable traffic safety hazard at the intersection of Chambers Creek Road West and 87th Avenue Court West. So on page 3 of the document, you can see that on Chambers Creek Road, they have a center lane for turning left. And the purpose of the two-way left turn lane is to separate during turning traffic from through traffic to improve road safety. This center lane is dedicated to deceleration and storage while waiting to make the left turn. So the Washington State Department of Transportation, the American Association of State Highway Transportation, and the Federal Highway Administration recognize this is an important to provide adequate storage length for turning vehicles so they can safely turn, get out of the through traffic lane and get into that turn lane to wait and make a safe left turn. So we've looked at our intersection and 13 other intersections along Chambers Creek Road. 8 of them are similar to ours, where in order to make a left turn, you have to go past a center island, enter the left turn lane, and wait to make your left turn. When we looked at these 8 similar intersections, they have between 105 and 355 feet of center lane storage area to enter, decelerate, wait, and turn. Unfortunately, 87th Avenue Court West, we have 38 feet. The center turn lane is intended to function as a refuge for vehicles preparing to make that left turn, allowing them to fully clear out of the through lane and avoid obstructing traffic. And this is just not possible at 87th Avenue Court West. The distance is simply not enough. Delivery trucks, garbage trucks, and even passenger vehicles cannot fully enter this center turn lane before making their left turn. As a result, part of our vehicles remain in the through lane, significantly increasing the risk of rear-end collisions and forcing following drivers to brake suddenly and make evasive maneuvers. Everybody on our street has lived through this many times. We get honked at, people swerve around us, because they don't expect us to continue to have a portion of our vehicle in the through traffic lane. So this is a foreseeable and preventable fix that we are requesting the city to conduct a formal engineering review and consider removing the center island to improve safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. That is all that we have signed up tonight to speak before council. So with that, we will close the public comment at this time, unless there's someone online that we've missed.
There's no one online, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's move then to item 7, the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you. It's properly moved and seconded. Is there any item on the consent agenda that anyone would wish to have removed at this time? Seeing that there's none.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is moved as amended. What was the amendment?
Item 7F, I believe, that you received earlier today.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Seeing that there's no others, then the consent agenda is approved as amended. Let's move to item number 8, which is the city managers and council comments and reports. Mr. Sugg.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and the public. Just letting everyone know that this Wednesday kicks off the Music on the Square concert series in Market Square, just outside the Civic Building. This is our annual concert series every Wednesday night from this Wednesday, July 8th, through Wednesday, July 26th, August 26th. So there'll be 8 total concerts, and it should be a fun time. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. Again, 6 to 8 p.m. every Wednesday from now through Wednesday, August 26th. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sugg. Tonight, we've got 2 of our council members who are representing the city back somewhere east. I want to say it's Nashville. I could be wrong. And you're at the National League of Cities.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville. Okay, he had the wrong state.
Home of the Slugger, the baseball bat.
Awesome.
Representing and bourbon, whiskey.
I hope you're not drinking it at the moment. But representing our city at the small cities committees that are back there. So we're going to start with y'all first. Mayor Pro Tem, we'll let you go first, since you're up there in the center, and we'll just kind of work our way around.
Okay. Well, we had an interesting flight getting in here, and we arrived safely, safe and sound. I had an email from the Small Cities Council Chair and NLC representative. The 21st Century Road to Housing Act has passed the House and Senate floor vote by a large margin on both sides. So whether or not President Trump vetoes it or signs it, it looks like it's going to go through. So that's really cool because it will bring back in the community development block grants, disaster recovery programs, rental assistance demo programs, augmenting items in it for homelessness, housing affordability, and also more grant opportunities will come along with that too. So all really cool and good news, and that's all done by the advocacy of the Small Cities Committee and other representatives and the National League of Cities. So that was the big push and impetus. So we're very proud of the National League of Cities work because it just shows how powerful everyone can be when they work together collectively. And it's a 14-page document, and I downloaded it all, and I'll send it to each and every one of you, so in case you want to read it and see all the interesting things that are going to be happening or changing And I was able to go to the SHAG groundbreaking, which was a huge, giant leap for University Place, especially on the 27th and Grandview. That will make that corner come back to life, will be more vibrant, active, and a wonderful asset to our city. It's one of the we haven't had affordable housing built in our city for quite a long time, I would say decades, and this is the first project that will have affordable housing for seniors, senior programming, and hopefully be able to partner with our Community Connection place that provides senior programming currently. So all really good things for that node of our regional growth center that's hopefully will be sparked to life and also inspire the rest of 27th Street Business District. I also met with Georgia Kempler of the National League Art and Culture and talked about things that are happening with our Art and Culture Commission and gleaned some of her ideas and expertise, and she sent me a lot of information to go over, so a lot of exciting information and support. She also indicated that if our city needs any support, they could reach out to her, and she has advocacy. There's also consulting that she can provide, and also best practices, and answer any questions that we have along that pathway as we develop our Arts and Culture Advisory Commission. So I would say we should take advantage of her for that. And then Lourdes Aceves has looked over our health and all policies, and she's really excited about what we're doing. She has never seen a template for health and all policies. And so with this design by the Pierce County Health Department and how we have augmented it and adjusted it to be uniquely University Place that we'll be looking at in our study session, they want to follow us along our pathway with the template, and they also have it. I sent it over to them, so they're going to design it, and hopefully when things work out, they will have it presented to the rest of the nation. So we're leading the nation because of Pierce County Health Department's idea of health and health policies with this template. And so that's really, really exciting that we're the forerunners in regards to that. I went to an Up for Art meeting, and they're starting up in September with their music in the atrium, classical music, jazz, and from world-renowned artists will be there. They're also adding a gala event for fundraising and an exciting partnership with Dance Theater Northwest. They're talking about that the first Saturday in December. It's still all brainstorming, and it will be designed around Christmas music, some Nutcracker music, and there'll be the musicians there and also the dancers working together and collaborating. So that's exciting too. And Dance Theater Northwest Showcase in the atrium this August 8th at 4 p.m. So if you want to see beautiful ballet, it's wonderfully choreographed. It's free to the public. I recommend that you go there. And that's all for my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. And with you there is Councilmember Boykin. If you would please go next. I believe you're muted, sir.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much. My enthusiasm for that mute button. I am just glad to be here. It's been a good trip, uneventful, as Mayor Pro Tem alluded to, and excited to get the actual conference underway. This is a summer board and leadership opportunity for those folks that have additional appointments. I get the pleasure of, as Mayor Pro Tem alluded to, with the Small Cities Council, but also I'm part of the NLC TIS, or the Transportation Infrastructure Services Council. And what's really cool about that, in my view, is it gives us an opportunity to do not just public and private suggestions for engagement, but it really also helps us hone what the federal government is doing in terms of being able to provide resources to cities. And so with the opportunity to get that underway, we are really looking at this Build America 250 bill, which got passed by the House's Transportation Committee just beyond Memorial Day. And so our opportunity here is to take a look at the different ways in which we see infrastructure coming, in my view, most importantly, to the University Place. There's been a different algorithm, if you will, in terms of how federal funding is moving this year. And what that would mean for us is that is a better chance for infrastructure that actually would first come into our congressional districts, which then, in my view, gives us a better chance to get monies that are needed inside of the city of University Place. We've had our eye on a couple of different scenarios when it came to legislative updates for the last millennium. And in that regard, the expectation for our Day Island Bridge has been centered yet again. So excited about what that could mean with a different opportunity to move funding in. Let me jump back locally. Locally, obviously had the opportunity to engage with our senior housing, or specifically senior housing assistance group, as well as the Pacific Northern Construction Company, as well as the partnership with the City of University Place. And what's really cool about that is not just being able to have a photo op and push dirt out, but to really demonstrate that we are invested in keeping the promises to the residents and citizens of the City of University Place. Keeping our eye on our senior population has been one of the things that has been as important, in my view, is keeping our eye on the youth. And so as we had an opportunity to break ground and move that forward, we're just excited about what that could mean with this 184 modern unit that's affordable for apartments for active seniors. That obviously is going to be part of the plan to open up in 2028. As we had a chance to move through both celebrations around Juneteenth as well as Father's Day, I just was really excited about the community engagement around the opportunity to speak to those audiences very specifically, as it became clear that celebrating inclusivity, as well as ensuring that stepping into roles and responsibilities of fathers, was excited about being able to speak and pray at different events when it came to community engagement. Was excited to start Juneteenth off with as a prayer breakfast inside of that event, and was excited to do similarly prayer opportunities inside of the City of University Place. As we continue to move forward, just also wanted to just give a heartfelt thank you to those citizens and residents that came out on June 20th for coffee with council members. Just so appreciative about being able to host an event with Councilmember Melanie Rossi, as well as the expectation of how positioning inside of CERT gave us a different engagement opportunity, as well as a way to just say, here's what our city is doing, but most importantly, here's your neighbors and here's what they're saying, and here is our opportunity to talk about the things that might be that much more important to you, to move different topics to the forefront, as well as to be clearer about what the vision and expectations and the good activities that's going forward in the City of University Place. So really, really enjoyed that, and just want again to thank the residents and citizens for coming out. Also wanted to underscore the opportunity to chair the ad hoc committee for at the mayor's pleasure. The expectation about one of 3 ad hoc committees that have gone forward with intentions for, in this case, looking at mayor pro tem leadership considerations, want to really ensure that there are opportunities to offer different ways to consider how it is that we move into leadership opportunities inside the city of University Place and our leadership for council, as well as really being sure that we are best positioning each council member as well as a process that gives them a chance to be their best selves and offer themselves to our residents and citizens with transparency. So just a whole host of things that I'd like to make sure that I get a chance to affirm my joy over. One other thing is the AWC. We had a chance to enjoy 4 council members attending that annual conference inside of Spokane. It was an opportunity to really rally around the theme of Washington United, which really just acknowledged that in advance of our challenges that communities face because of the diverse impacts that so many different people sense, we also get an opportunity to come together and say, this is what Washington is doing. This is what's happening in Washington. And the different sessions give us a chance to be able to hone solutions and create strategies that can very well be difference makers in our city of University Place. So just excited about all of those things and really appreciate, again, as I alluded to, NLC kicking off tomorrow with specific opportunities inside of our federal advocacy councils. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilmember Boykin. I'm going to move to my right. Councilmember Wood, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So first, I'd like to say happy 4th of July, a couple days late, and happy 250th birthday. It's been an eventful weekend. Certainly, many of our neighbors were loudly and joyously celebrating. I'd also like to thank Sherry. She's already left, but for her comments on traffic safety. I always really appreciate it when citizens come in and identify issues in the community, because that gives us an opportunity to look at them and solve them. Like most of my other council members, I was at the opening for SHAG on 27th and Grandview, and in addition to the great opportunity I think it's going to provide seniors in our community for housing and new community, I'm also just grateful for something going in at that corner. For all of us who have campaigned in this city, we've heard complaints or comments for years from our citizens about what is going to happen at 27th and Grandview. When is it going to happen? And I'm proud and happy to say something is happening, and I think it's a great opportunity for our city. Also got to attend the Wave Car Wash opening, and I would like to thank our city staff. There was a comment I heard from the owner of Wave and also from his key person who was in charge of permitting, that UP was the best city they've ever worked with in terms of permitting and getting their project done. And I asked how many cities they've worked with, and they said about 30. And so I think that is a great compliment to our team and our staff, and I would ask that you pass it on to that team. And finally, I was one of those 4 who were at Association of Washington Cities. I went in there with a specific agenda. I wanted to hear about housing. The state for the last couple of years, if you haven't been paying attention, has put in a lot of housing mandates for the entire state. And I was going in there trying to see if there's ways and what tools we have to help use the tools the state gave us to better fit UP, because they just did kind of a one over the world, everybody's the same, and not every city is the same. And I came away with some great ideas and some tools, and more importantly, one of the things a speaker talked about, which is rare in the housing group, is talking about home ownership and home ownership opportunities. And that's something I'm passionate for. I really believe that people who want to own a home should have that opportunity. And I'm going to just do one fun fact I want to share with our community. This came from Dr. Gardner at the University of Washington. And he said the average net worth of a family that rents is about $15,000. The average net worth of a family that owns their home is about $450,000. And I'd like to give more opportunities for all our citizens to build their net worth when it's the right time for them to do so. So it was a great event, great opportunity to network and learn some more, and I look forward to when our city discusses housing in the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Wood. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple small things. Just want to inquire about the August 17th, second meeting of August, which is typically have been canceled for the summer, and wanted to know, so for planning purposes, if that's going to come up or not. Sooner the better for some of us. The other one is a couple weeks ago, I wasn't at the last meeting, but before the last meeting, I attended the change of command for the Command Sergeant Major of the 16 Cab. Well attended. We did have 4 council members that RSVP'd, and I'd just like to say that if you RSVP, please attend. They do put our names on the chairs. They put them up front, and they have a lot of pride. And so if you can't make it, make the call, and or have a staff person make the call to take the chair, the name, because it was pretty obvious when you had 4 names and they're up there and nobody was present except for myself. I think it'd be the right thing to do. And the only other thing is that the World Cup, we are playing tonight. And I have to say that I'm certainly happy that it's happening. One of the host cities is Seattle. It has brought so much economic monies and just the awareness of the Puget Sound, which dwindles down to University Place, Pierce County. And the reason I say that, because I took a vacation going to San Diego just last week. I was on that plane, and I wore my UP, University Place shirt. Well, it was well noticed by people. Say, "Oh, you're from UP. We just finished visiting there, and that's a great course, and they just like the city and things like that." So it really has promoted about every city that has something to show off like we do. So it's a proud moment where you can wear a shirt and people recognize it and compliment you. So happy for Seattle hosting it, and of course it so far has gone off really well without any major negative incident of some sort. It's all been positive, and so that's a real plus for all of us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Great remarks. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't belabor too much of what everyone else has already said regarding attending the SHAG groundbreaking, but it was a beautiful day. And thank you to our staff and to Wesley, who put a great event together. It was first class. In addition to the affordable housing that's coming for our seniors, I'm so excited. But I'm also excited for one of our small businesses, Lefties and UP Station, as they're right next door to all of the building and hustle and bustle. They've already seen increased business from that. So I'm happy that, one event of a groundbreaking also brings more economic boom to our little corner there. So happy for Lefties right there. I've gotten a lot of comments. Where's Lefties going? Nowhere yet. So they're still open. Go and visit them this summer. It's a great time to be there. As Councilmember Boykin said, thank you so much to our community members, ones here this evening that came to our first coffee with council at Cirque Park. It was a wonderful event. Great time to meet friends that I had not got to meet before that came out and had coffee. Thank you to Classic Coffee for providing the wonderful coffee and Pow's Donuts as well. But it was a great way to hear directly from our constituents. So I encourage other council members, if that's something that you want to do, it's a great opportunity to get out there and be with people, answer questions, meet people. And it was a great event. So be looking for another coffee with council in the fall. Dates to come. Councilmember Boykin, thank you for your comments and for co-hosting with me. That was a great time. Also attended the Juneteenth prayer breakfast. I want to say thank you to the city of Tacoma and all of those that put on the Juneteenth event. I would love one day for our city to host something around the Juneteenth holiday. I think it would be wonderful. They're doing the heavy lifting over there right now. They moved to LeMay Car Museum in that part of town. It was a wonderful event. So thank you to everyone who put that together. And I want, for my small business highlight this week, I am so excited to learn learn about Alex's Safe Place. I don't know if you know, this place is farm is in our city. It's Alex Safe Place, health and healing through animals. And this farm with horses and llamas and alpacas and different puppies, bunnies, all sorts of animals exist right here in our city to provide a healing space. And she has a free day camp for children coming up. July 18th is for ages 7 through 11, and then older children from July 25th. That week it's a free day camp. Come out, and she really specializes in creating a safe space for people to work through trauma, through every type of prior engagement that they've had with a traumatic incident or a loss in their family. Again, it's called Alex's Safe Place. I had no idea that this gem was right here in our own city, and so I'll be visiting on July 17th, but looking forward to learning more about that. So thank you. And that is all I have this evening, Mayor.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. You know, I don't want to belabor all the great comments that have been made this evening, but it does underscore what council members have said tonight about their engagement and commitment to our community, as well as to our neighboring cities, our state, and our federal electeds. You know, for the citizens that watch or citizens that read about University Place, it's really important to note how engaged the council leadership is. I want to make some footnotes to some of the comments that were made. I think Councilmember Wood said it best with regards to the WAVE car ribbon cutting ceremony that we all attended. It was truly one of the highlights for them to comment about how easy it was to work with our city staff and how grateful they were to the city for having that particular business locate here in University Place. I also had the opportunity to attend the Association of Washington Cities. The theme, as Councilmember Boykin pointed out, was Washington United. It was interesting, you know, for those that wonder what that is about, that's where leaderships of all cities in Washington gather. We spend a lot of concentrated time learning about the current legislation and other things that affect our communities, but really attending that and learning how united we are and how all our communities face the challenges, I hate to say, that seem to keep coming down from this Olympia with unfunded mandates upon the communities. The SHAG groundbreaking, again, transformational. That will change the 27th business district as that facility comes online, and as others have already pointed out, it is one of our first projects in the city of creating affordable housing for our seniors that live here in our community. Lastly, I wanted to just share with council, I had the chance to attend a reception held by the 1st Corps Commander out at Fort Lewis, or JBLM, where they were celebrating not only our nation's 250th birthday, but our communities that support JBLM and the men and women that serve out there. I was pleased to hear the Commanding General tell me how much he loved University Place because he gets to come and shop at Trader Joe's. So, one of his favorite spots. So, we're on his radar screen at least. A couple of upcoming events for our community. I think some of the council members have mentioned some of the ones here at City Hall in the atrium. We also have National Night Out coming up, and then celebrating our first youth sports activities that should be coming up, or should have already started by now. So with that said, that will bring council comments to an end, and again, appreciate the work that everyone does here on council. Moving on, we're going to recess now into study session, and we have two really, what I consider really great topics tonight to discuss. First one is Health in All Policies, an initiative led by the Mayor Pro Tem. She's been working on this for at least 2 years that I'm aware of, and maybe longer. And then Senior Recreation, that I know all council members throughout their tenure have been working on here in the community. So let's start with item number 9, Health in All Policies. Lisa Fatorik, our Administrative Services Director, will lead this conversation.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. All right, so as we move through the presentation this evening, my clicker's not working, it's on. It is now, yeah, thank you. We will cover three main points. First, we will review the Health in All Policies goal and timeline, just to refresh everyone's memories on where that started and how that came about. Then we will review the Health in All Policies form that was developed, and we'll discuss some potential future uses. And then the last topic for today will be implementation and next steps. As we walk through this presentation, staff is seeking direction from council on the following three questions. The first is, do you like the form, and do you have any edits or changes to the proposed document? The second is, do you like the policy or project uses, and do you have any edits or changes to that list? And last will be, are you comfortable with staff piloting this tool? So as we walk through the presentation, just keep these three questions in mind. Do you like the form? Do you like the policy list? And are you ready to pilot? So as you recall, Health in All Policies was brought forth by the Mayor Pro Tem and other colleagues on the council at the council retreat that occurred in 2024. After further discussion, the Health in All Policy became council's #3 goal, and that was approved for the 2025-2026 biennial budget. On June 17th of 2024, that was cemented in the resolution that was passed on, again, in June of 2024. And what was written in the resolution is the council goal that you see before you, which determines that Health in All Policies integrate health considerations into policy making through a Health in All Policies approach aligned with the Growth Management Act. There was a request to establish a checklist for staff and commissions to assess and report on legislative choices utilizing defined health considerations to ensure comprehensive decision-making with a focus on University Place. So with that council directive, after the resolution was passed, staff began their work by meeting with the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department and wanted to give kudos to the Tacoma Pierce County Department staff for making time to visit with city staff. They created a pretty amazing Health in All Policies lens analysis tool, which was many, many pages. And after meeting with them, they highly encouraged the City of University Place to take whatever materials they had developed and truly make it its own. And so that was very appreciated by staff. After meeting with the health department, they defined Health in All Policies as an approach that integrates health into decisions and policy making. So after meeting with them and reviewing their documents on the subject, staff created a UP-centric form, streamlined their documents to a 2-page form with an appendix at the back, and we'll go through what that consists of. The form, when it was first developed, was reviewed by commission members. So staff went to the various commission meetings and had a discussion, received input from various members of the commission with some feedback, some things that they would like to see added, taken away, modified. And then with those comments, the form was then reviewed with staff input from the various departments. And what you will see before you is the outcome of those various meetings and discussion points. So the form that's also in your packet, but we have also are showing it on the screen before you, has a couple of sections. The first section is really an introductory section. It talks about what is Health in All Policies. You can see that Health in All Policies is designed to shape the health and well-being of the communities they serve. When decision makers adopt this approach and use tools such as this health analysis lens tool, they are better able to identify how policy decisions influence the root causes of poor health outcomes.
Then the second part of that talks about what the health analysis tool can help individuals using this form do. So the first really is to assess the potential health impacts of a proposed policy or decision. And it's really to be used to consider how a proposal may affect the health and well-being of different groups in the community. This includes looking beyond immediate outcomes to identify who may benefit and who may be burdened. So it looks at the pros and cons of each of those factors. The second portion of this is to identify opportunities within the proposal to improve its impacts on the social, economic, and environmental causes of health. And so we'll walk through what that looks like. So essentially, the form would be filled out. We would name the proposed policy or project, whatever is being reviewed by council. The first question is, what is the proposal trying to achieve or address? Again, very broad look at the policy consideration that would be before council. The second question is, which groups of people will be most impacted by this proposal? So looking at the different populations that could be impacted both positively and negatively. The third is, which groups of people may be impacted have you consulted with when developing the proposal? And this question is really important because it requires outreach, not only from city staff, but it could be from the commission, could be from council, could be from other partnering agencies. But it really is forcing the city to hear from those who may be directly impacted. And the benefit of this is staff can glean information that they otherwise may not have considered had they not met with the various populations within the community that could be impacted. The fourth question for consideration on this form is, how would this proposal improve or impair the social conditions of the community and what populations? So here this really is focusing on the person to consider both the positive and negative consequences of the policy that's being presented. One of the things that you look at when you're considering social conditions is you're looking at potentially socioeconomic standings, education, housing, occupations, et cetera, of folks that may be impacted by the policy decision. So that's what the social conditions is looking for. Number 5 is looking at how this proposal would improve or impair the economic conditions of the community, and again, which populations within that community. So do the positive or negative impacts influence economic development within the city? Do they influence or bring in businesses, or do they hamper those efforts? Do they improve transit? That might improve economic development for business areas, or any other sort of economic implications tied to that question. Number 6 is, how would this improve or impair the environmental conditions of the community, and again, which populations? So the environment plays a huge role in wellness. One of the examples that you will be seeing is in the comprehensive climate updates. There's a lot of mitigation factors that could impact health. So as the city moves forward with those climate element considerations and does things like tree canopy analysis, urban heat mapping indexing, air quality measurements, looking at how those mitigation factors could improve, some of those environmental conditions would be a consideration that would be factored into this form. And then lastly, 7, what actions will be taken to make this proposal supportive of health and university place? So there's 2 options there. This is sort of an either or option at the end. So for no change, perhaps the analysis walkthrough that staff conducted or council or the commission conducted has considered a lot of those health wellness factors into it already in the policy decision-making process, and so it's been drafted in a way that those have been met and no amendments would need to be made. And we'll talk about this in the next example, but there could be an instance where the policy has been drafted, staff has walked through this analysis and realized, oh, there are some areas where we need to improve, and we can make those changes, and we would want to note those here so that during the decision-making process, those can be raised, discussed, and hopefully mitigated in the future. And so this is the general form, but I also wanted to provide an example of how this would look if it were applied to a specific policy. So we're going into something that will be coming before the council later in the fall, and that's the hazard mitigation plan. This is staff's first attempt of using this analysis tool for that type of project. So this is not in a final form whatsoever, but it just gives you a taste of how this form could be used and what this might look like. So in the hazard mitigation plan form that's been filled out for this health analysis, you can see we've answered, what the proposal is trying to achieve or address, and you can see from that the hazard mitigation plan establishes a coordinated long-term strategy to reduce risk to people, property, and the environment from natural hazards while strengthening community resilience, preparedness, and continuity of operations. When we look at which groups will be most impacted by this proposal, the hazard mitigation plan is so large it really encompasses the entire community, but within that plan it focuses on certain high-risk areas where folks are more prone to maybe have issues during disasters, and it also focuses on more vulnerable types of populations, those that may be more vulnerable due to age, income, health, ability when dealing with various natural disasters. When we go to question number 3, which groups of people may be impacted have you consulted with when developing the proposal? So when staff first looked at this question, we hearkened back to a survey that was first conducted about a year ago that was done between a partnership with the city and West Pierce Fire Emergency Management Coalition. One of the first things that was done was a survey that was conducted and provided in a multitude of languages, and you can see the languages that are listed in your form here. That was just one population that was considered. Obviously, there are others, but that's the one that was used in this example here. And you can also see that the city worked with Pierce County and the state for its review of mitigation measures. When staff looked at how this proposal would improve or impair the social conditions of the community and specific which populations, the staff found that the hazard mitigation plan is expected to improve the social conditions by increasing safety, preparedness, and resilience across the community, especially for those in high-risk areas and for vulnerable populations, because it helps maintain essential services and supports community stability during and after hazard events. However, when considering the potential for the impairment of social conditions, staff did recognize that there could be some short-term challenges, such as construction disruptions, increased costs, or changes for the built environment that would affect daily routines. These impacts could disproportionately affect populations with fewer resources to adapt, including low-income households and individuals with mobility or health challenges. So that was something that came out of the health analysis there. When looking at how this would improve or impair the economic conditions of the community, and again, which populations, staff determined that the hazard mitigation plan overall is expected to improve economic conditions by reducing long-term damage to property, infrastructure, and businesses, and would ultimately help maintain economic stability. But there were, again, some short-term challenges such as increased costs, construction impacts, temporary disruptions, especially for local businesses, and transportation, depending on what type of hazard or where the hazard occurs. So there may be specific impacts to specific business districts that the city needs to be cognizant to. And then when determining how this proposal would improve or impair the environmental conditions of the community and which populations, again, overall, the plan would support the health of long-term environmental impacts by protecting natural resources and reducing damage from hazards. But again, there could be some short-term impacts related to construction disturbances, vegetation removal or noise, construction, depending on whatever that hazard is and the location of that. With the initial pass-through that staff did with this example, ultimately I think there would probably be an amendment to the proposal, but if everything was done fully out to the full analysis of the hazard mitigation plan, there could be no change if the city does more work, because the the hazard mitigation plan itself follows a comprehensive, well-established planning framework that aligns with FEMA guidance along with the Washington State Emergency Department of Management guidance for a hazard mitigation plan. It already incorporates risk assessments, mitigation strategies, and already considers those that are vulnerable populations that may be impacted by various hazards. But when looking at the hazard mitigation plan itself more closely, at this point, the proposal could be improved by expanding targeted outreach to underrepresented and harder to reach communities. So building on the existing survey, additional engagement efforts would help ensure a more complete understanding of community needs and risks. This could include ongoing multilingual communication and partnerships with community-based organizations. These steps would strengthen participation and improve the overall effectiveness of the plan. So there are some ideas there. This was, again, just a very brief review of how this plan could be used. The form itself has very open-ended questions, so it can be as streamlined or as comprehensive as council would like it to be. So for something as comprehensive and maybe complicated as the hazard mitigation plan, depending on what sort of mitigation measures are recommended, you might want to do a health analysis for each of those hazard mitigation measures to touch on the various populations that could be impacted via social considerations, economic considerations, or environmental considerations. So that would create a document that's much longer than 2 pages because it would consider all of those elements. But for something that council would be interested in looking at a policy that might be more streamlined and less complicated, then maybe the 2-page would be adequate for what council is looking for its needs. So again, very open-ended, very flexible, and that was the point, to be something that council could use for something that's more simple or something that is very comprehensive. Thank you. So after building the form, staff had conversations with various departments and some.
Lisa, I don't want to interrupt, but yes. Do you want to take questions now, or do you want to take them at the end of your presentation?
We can do however council would like to do that. So if you'd like to take questions on the form, we can stop and do that.
Sure, let's take a pause,
sure.
Just because it's a lot of information.
Yes.
It's great information that you're providing council. Councilmember Figueroa has a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And I'm speaking to my peers because we're going to be given direction as to the form and other points of this policy. I'd like to see a staff and fiscal impacts to when the decision is to go through this tool and then this needs to be implemented. I think it's important that we understand, and there should be a report in staff and fiscal impacts for anything that is done and implemented. It certainly should be kept simple. I think that initially as simple as it can be done, so that if it warrants, like there's something that comes out screaming loud and saying we really need to dig in here for whatever reason, staff can report and get direction from the council to spend more staff time and more funds to implement that. But I don't think that we should go in initially, and especially in the pilot program part of it. But I really think it's important that we understand staff impacts and fiscal impacts and not be surprised later on on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman, did you have a question?
I do have comments, but I can save them till later if needed.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I'm looking at the Mayor Pro Tem or Councilmember Boykin. Do you have any questions at this point?
I can save my comments again till the report has been completed, but it's been very interesting, and just as importantly to your point, it's a lot of information. So I appreciate the opportunity to pause.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey, do you have any comments at this point?
No, not at this point. I think a takeaway is that it could be as simple or as complicated, but once a determination is made from this form, it doesn't mean that it's going to be in place. And I do concur with Councilmember Figueroa that it should come in with budgetary impacts, staff implications, but also a weighting to the other side of the greater good. What is the greater benefit to add the additional cost if that comes about? So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lisa.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate those comments so far. So staff held a discussion trying to determine some policies or project use ideas for this form. Some of the ideas that came up were the comprehensive planning documents. A lot of the ideas that are in the comprehensive planning documents do link to health and wellness for the community, and so it seems like a natural fit to implement these questions along with various portions of that document itself. The next is consideration of regional growth centers. There are some requirements regarding walkability in those plans, transit access, proximity to various services that do link with health. So that seems a natural fit as well. With the upcoming climate elements that will be added to the comprehensive plan, staff did find that there were health considerations that will be considered in that document as well, as we look at heat indexing and clean air measurements and items to that similar nature. The PROS plan was also another planning document that seemed like it would be a good fit for a forum such as this, as that document is one that guides parks, recreation, and open space investments towards active living and equitable access to those locations in a community. And then we did discuss the hazard mitigation plan already. And so staff would be looking for guidance from council if council has ideas of other areas or policies that they would like to see this form used. So we are very open to hearing from council on any ideas there. And then next steps really are for council to provide some input on the form itself and finalize the health and all policies form so we can prepare it to go to staff, and staff can begin working on these various projects for that. So I know that Mayor Pro Tem had mentioned in her council comments that she had forwarded the document to the National League of Cities and had received some feedback from Georgia Gempler already. And I'm sure Mayor Pro Tem will be mentioning there were some slight language changes that were recommended for the opening paragraph of the form. Very similar, still matches the ideology behind the first paragraph, but just slightly modified. So staff is looking for those types of changes that can be made. Again, staff would like to recommend piloting this tool with certain of the select policies that staff has recommended, as those are ones that are coming up in the near future, that we can help measure and see, okay, what is, how much time did it take staff? Is it a helpful tool in helping council make some of those policy changes and recommendations that you would like to implement? So we'd like to pilot this over the next 6 to 9 months within these various policies. And then in that time, staff would be seeking feedback from those members that are using it for the various projects. We would like, if it's used by commissions, we would be seeking feedback from them for the various policies that they may be recommending for council. And then also we would be seeking council feedback. As you saw these start coming across your desks attached to specific policies, what do you like about it? What do you wish it had? If there's more information that you're missing from it that as we get into it you're not seeing that should be there, we're open to all sort of that feedback. And then just refining their approach. So once we get recommendations, we'll feed them back into the system, try it out again, see how that works, and just continually make this an improvement process so that hopefully by the end of the time period, you'll have a document that you feel can work with large policies, smaller policies, that gets to what you might be looking for. So it's a very malleable process at this point. So again, just to remind folks of the desired outcome, staff again is seeking council direction on whether you like the form, what edits you may have. Do you like that list of policies? Do you have things you want to add or take off of that list? And then are you comfortable, once we get some feedback on what we hear tonight, of us making those modifications and then starting to pilot this tool moving forward? Thank you.
All right, Lisa, that was a great presentation. Lots of information, but the thoroughness is really appreciated, so thank you for the work done on that. I have just a few questions, and we'll kind of open it up to everyone to provide some question, comments, feedback, but I'll just go through these real quickly. One was, you mentioned several language or ethnicities within the city. The one that was completely omitted was, those ethnicities from the African continent. We've got a fairly significant Ethiopian population. It's important if we're going to be inclusive that we are inclusive. So that would be one suggestion there with that one. The other was, if you said it, I missed it, and that was when we were evaluating on health and all policies and how we're basing that. Will we look at families and individuals that reside in multifamily housing versus families that reside in single-family housing? Because there is a difference there too when we're looking at health in all policies there. Next one is. What I like about the document, if I heard you correctly, it's a living document. We're going to be doing some continuous ongoing quality improvements on that document as we move it forward, which is, I think, awesome when we're looking at developing policy. But the question I have there is, are you looking for a pilot project before adoption or after adoption of the recommendations here? And then lastly, do we have established gates for feedback from the council as you're working through it?
Okay, yes, let's start with your first comment. Absolutely. So when the initial survey went out, talking about hazard mitigation, there was a survey conducted of the most popular languages, but yes, we agree, point taken, especially on various policies. Inclusiveness is important. We should capture all the languages spoken in this community. So we will be doing that. So thank you for that, pointing that out. Number two, will we be looking at multifamily versus single family? So I didn't discuss that, but yes, that has been in conversations before. And in the appendix, it talks about various groups for consideration. So number two in the appendix, we should be adding the multifamily housing considerations there. So that's something that I think can be added to the document. Right now we have it. We have a listing of various populations plus others. So we can add that to the list just to make sure it's not forgotten. So thank you for that. And then your question number three, yes, this is a living document. And are you looking for adoption of this before or after we start piloting this? I think for staff efficiency, it would be helpful for us to come away with some head nods that yes, this is the form that we would like to use initially, so that we can at least start applying it to various policies. And then once you've seen 2 or 3 of the policies come through, it might be good to have another study session on this topic and be like, okay, you've seen this now with a couple different options. What recommendations do you have at that point? So I think that would be helpful for staff to do it that way. And then your last question of established gates on getting feedback from council. That's something that we would be willing to have open to hearing what council would like to do for that. We don't have anything formalized in terms of a recommendation for how we would like to receive that feedback. So whether we receive that feedback in one-on-ones or if we save it up for a study session later in the fall, we would be open to hearing what council would like to see for that.
I'll throw out just so we can have conversation. I was thinking more of just a quarterly type report back to council as to how it's progressing, how, you know, what's working, what's not working, what can we improve on, what you don't need to touch. I think along those lines. Okay. Hey, with that said, questions, comments, and we'll start with Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So first, I'll echo great presentation, very informative. One thing I really appreciate about this is you have a broad definition of health, which includes social, economic, and environmental health. And I think the economic health is something that some people may not immediately think of, that's actually incredibly important to our community. So I very much appreciate that. And then part of me was sitting here thinking, well, this document is just really codifying just good planning in a way. We're looking at second and third order effects of policies that we'd like to implement. And I'd like to say that that's something we do all the time, but the reality is we can very much focus on an individual silo. Like, you know, we're looking at stormwater management. We talk everything about stormwater management, but not necessarily the impacts of whatever particular policy we're looking at the time. So I really appreciate how this, again, codifies, forces us to look outside just what we're doing. So I really appreciate that. As far as suggestions, just looking at it right now, the tool guide. Number 2, where you're just talking about multifamily and single family, I'd actually like to include also neighborhoods or geographic group. So for example, if we're talking hazard mitigation and we're talking, you know, sea level rise or something like that, well, the people of Day Island should probably be talked to, and some other folks on the coast. Or if we're talking urban wildland interface, people who live along Chambers Creek Canyon would be another group. And so I think just having that codified as well, just saying, you know, neighborhood, geographic, whatever, however you want to phrase it. And finally, I support the mayor's thoughts on, say, a quarterly feedback. I think that would be a good idea. And Mayor, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Boykin, do you have any comments?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Let me first start by just going directly to those questions that the excellent presentation that had been provided asked us to hone in on, and specifically, did I like the form edits and changes in proposed documents? I do like the form. I do appreciate, again, the opportunity to incorporate what seems to be a pretty expansive view, thoughtful view about the complexities, as well as the opportunity for it to have a much cleaner and shorter runway, if that's what the council was to choose. I also wanted to comment on policy and project uses. I really do believe that this is extremely complex. As a matter of fact, I think it's so complex that trying to do it any other way than very small bites and very specific launches is going to have us over our skis. But I just appreciate that it's being brought forward, because absence of the really thoughtfulness of wellness in all policies, there are so many different touch points that we just never get a chance to identify, own, and then subsequently demonstrate that we've got the responsibility in those areas. So I'm really appreciative about that. And then lastly, I'm very comfortable with staff policing this effort with the recommendation that both the mayor has suggested for feedback and Councilmember Wood affirming that the quarterly engagement is extremely critical, because being close to this is how we don't miss the opportunities that have been afforded us in our thinking, our ways of here being intentional when it comes to, again, health and all policies being a possibility of what that could look like in the city of University Place. The last thing I want to say is typically health impacts are delineated by zip codes. And in that scenario, as we look at City of University Place, I like as many different ways that we can talk about looking at the ways in which the City of University Place is identified, so that we can not just acknowledge health in those areas, but what it could look like if we were considering different nuances in terms of health and all policies as a tool of implementation. So like that, I think that's where some of the comments were going, both with you, Mayor, and then again, Councilmember Wood, just looking at ways in which we can see that diversity and differentiation and how it shows up, so we can be really clear about what we want to drive when it comes to health and all policies for a better community.
Okay,
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Boykin. Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey.
All right, thank you. When I was thinking about this, I was also visioning that this is like an overlay of discussions, policy, presentations of what is percolating up. You know, I think the Planning Commission will have a lot of more complexities with the use of this tool. Talking to several of the planning commissioners, they like it. It brings to the forefront that discussion, that thought. Just by touching it, it changes the direction that they're thinking about a health and wellness component and how that impacts positively and negatively each citizen and future citizens that will be living. How will they be living in the city for the betterment of their lifestyle? You know, keeping the beautification of the city going, the increasing the tree canopy and looking at some of those environmental impacts on our health, but also looking at how we move about in the city. Through the health and all policies component, we can and maybe enable people to make more healthier decisions automatically, because we provided the framing, the infrastructure, and they make that choice. And it has leaned with research projects that does encourage a more healthy lifestyle. That's one of the reasons why Whole Foods is in our community, because our citizens, they did the analysis, they look at the ingredients, they make choices based on the quality of foods that they would like to ingest and bring back to their families. So we have a vested interest, there's an economic interest in it, and to include it in the form, which I like the form, I like the framing of it. I like that it could be short or long or complex. It's all about what we're discussing and what policy we are driving an outcome for. It's an effective approach that quickly can assess impacts through certain analysis, and there's other components that may not be as quick because they're too complicated. And that's a decision that council will need to make. Do we want to do that investment? Do we want to bring it to that end goal? Do we need a consultant to sort of figure it out? Or it could be just a very simple analysis. And I think that's the feedback we should get from our commissions and our staff, and then make those comprehensive decisions at that time. To Councilmember Figueroa's point, how much money, time, energy, and staff time do we want to put into this? What is the greater good? What is the net gain? How do we want to keep progressing and growing our city. So it will also, the use of this tool will have the intelligent value that will keep the focus and the policy driven at each and every juncture as the healthful impacts of what we're doing. We will always have negative comments, negative outcomes to whatever we decide, but I think this will help mitigate it, and will also give us a sense of intelligent reasoning as to why we've chosen one pathway over another. There could be times where we'll have to impact one group of people over another when we're deciding the greater good or how we want to develop the infrastructure in our city. It could be just state mandates. And I think once we could also bring this back to our state representatives and let them know some of the consequences of some of the mandates, and maybe they'll take it back to the House and Senate, or House and Senate, and maybe change some of those things up. When we have that dynamic tool and we have a scientifically driven data approach and comments from their citizens from University Place. I do encourage a pilot project that is staff-driven. I like to have the guidance and feedback of their thoughts and actions, as well as some of the expertise that I have noted with the National League of Cities. They have Lordy's is over a group of people that are designing health and all policies at the National League of Cities level, and they can work hand in hand with us to help develop a quite unique and wonderful tool to use, not only for UP, but for all other cities as well. I do like the quarterly report. And my question is the listing of areas for pilot projects, is that staff's proposal? For example, the PROS plan to...
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, this was the list that staff had developed after reviewing the form.
Okay, so that's the pilot projects that you want to use in order to test the template, the tool out.
Yes.
Okay.
Knowing that some will come before others. The PROS plan is a little bit more comprehensive, but we feel that there's a good enough mix where you can kind of see, you know, the difference between these different proposals here.
Right, and I also like the community outreach and some of the direct and indirect impacts that we can glean our citizens' comments with to bring back to the table throughout the analysis as well. And that's sort of off the top of my head right now, Mayor. I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Lisa, for the comprehensive report. It's a lot of, as everyone said, a lot of information. It's a worthy endeavor. I agree, and it's a lot to take on, so thank you so much. I concur with Councilmember Figueroa about the fiscal impacts. I think that's really helpful. I also concur with the Mayor's suggestion of the quarterly feedback. I also am in favor of the pilot program before adoption. I hope that we're going to get a wide spectrum of piloting. I know some kind of, when you're looking at this, you think, oh, that would be a good policy to pilot with, but I hope we can also like kind of pull those weird, you know, herrings out of the woods too and see how much does this really affect everything. Does it work as an overlay, as the Mayor Pro Tem said, with every policy. I'm interested to know, do we know any school districts or our school district that has adopted anything similar to this in their planning?
I do not know, but I can do some research and reach out and see if they have. And if they have, then yeah, we would love to see that and see what they're doing.
I'd love to see if any, specifically for youth target, it would be interesting to see if they have something similar. I do agree with Councilmember Boykin. I am concerned, as I've said, I think this is a worthy endeavor, but getting over our skis here, it seems like a lot. This seems like it's going to be a big undertaking. So I hope that we take it methodically and something that we can not just be excited about now, but also continue. And when we put all of the staff time and work into it, it's something that it makes sense for a time to come. I'd also be interested in the use of AI with this as well, if that's going to be a help. Maybe you've already utilized that. I'm not sure. We don't talk a lot on the dais about how our city utilizes AI and how that could be also a tool to help in this policy is pare down staff time as well. So I don't know, maybe you've already have the answer to that.
We've touched on it. Okay. IT right now is working on a policy for staff use of AI because there are some concerns related to that. But in general, just kind of playing around with it, of getting some ideas, it has been helpful.
Okay. I understand the concerns, and I think we should approach it thoughtfully, but I do think it's a worthy question as we're looking also at fiscal impacts and how this can help. So those are my brief comments. I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem for bringing this to us originally. This is, again, I think, as you described it, an overlay that can help with a lot of our decision-making and policies in the future. So thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Great. Thank you very much. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to get into the weeds a little bit, and I like the reporting component. I just would like to have my peers here, my colleagues, to reconsider maybe every 4 months, 3 times a year versus 3, because as we just have heard from ourselves and from staff, this is new. Is a lot of components how it will be implemented, especially you start talking about community outreach, including commissioners of sorts, commissions, I should say. And so I think that, as we know, 3 months can go by really fast, identifying the project, getting staff that are not, especially initially, getting staff to understand how to do this and how far to go, with whom. I think that it would be something we should reconsider, that from every 3 months to every 4 months, to allow for some time for things to develop and implement it through various players out there in the community or commissions. And then the flip side of that is, I'd just like to be clear. I think we should provide some clarity, I should say, on how the report should be. I don't have a preference, but I'd like us to provide some direction, and that is, should it be in an email reporting style? Should it be in person in front of the council? And if so, when? I think should we say something like this at the second meeting of the following month? Because you don't want to ask them when whether it's every 3 months or 4 months to report when it's barely ending. They always have time they need time to put it all together. So I think it's just to provide a little bit more clarity there on what type of a report should it be and when, and I like to propose every 4 months. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, seeing that there's none, just to keep this thing moving along, I do agree that because this is new, it's new to staff, it's new to council. I think the quarterly reports initially would be good. If we're feeling more comfortable with it, we can certainly spread that out after we kind of get this machine moving and go to, for every 4 months or whatever council think is appropriate at that time. With regards to clarity, I also agree with that. But what I was suggesting earlier was, in that quarterly report, it would be at council maybe in a study session format of just giving us an update of where we are with those things, because I don't want it to be lost in emails. I'd like all the council to be able to see it and weigh in on it, if that makes sense to you. So with that said, I think you have enough guidelines, and we're not taking votes here, but I think there's a consensus. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. And we can move forward with that. Okay.
Thanks for your comments, Council.
Right.
Very much appreciated.
You know, as you move forward, though, please keep in mind the comments that the council has made and the suggestions. If you can review those, incorporate those, I think we will have a chance for greater success. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. With that said, yes, Madam Clerk. Who does?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry, I see you right there. Sorry about that.
Okay, I was remiss, and when you mentioned Mr. Kaiser, it popped into my mind.
Oh, drats. No.
Health and health policy does include the legal part of it too, because as we're going along, we need to make sure that we're legally compliant, and when we think about some of the legal ramifications along the way. So.
Point well taken. I think as the staff works through that, Matt, being part of the staff, will probably have great oversight there.
I usually have the questions. Just remember that which is legal may not always be healthy, or vice versa. But we'll ferret those out as they come out.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we got to stay in our lane, right?
Exactly. Okay. With that, let's move on to item number 10, senior recreation. We have Jack Eklund, our Public Works Director, to present that. Jack, where are you? I can't see him.
I am up here, hopefully on the screen if you can see me. I'm
okay.
Remote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, I'm Jack Eklund, Director of Public Works. And tonight we're doing a review and kind of update on our senior recreation. I don't know if we could get the presentation put up, and then I might need to just indicate when we go to the next slide. But while that's going up, I'll just do a quick preview. What we're going to be going over tonight is we're going to, just kind of remind, kind of give a status of what our original goal was, what we had, the last direction we had back in January of 25 of what type of things we wanted to see moving on, and then a status of where we are now and what are our next steps moving forward. And I don't know, I don't see anything myself presentation-wise. If there's anything on the screen that I'm missing, but
no, it was up and then it disappeared. So I think they're trying to get it back up, Jack.
Okay. Yeah,
so the note I'm seeing here is they did not receive the presentation.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that Steve and Emmy had, that was something they had done ahead of time. So I'm not sure if Steve or Emmy know status of that.
Why don't we do this while staff works on it here? Why don't you go ahead and get started, and then we'll catch up on the slides.
Sounds good. Okay, so kind of first step is kind of review what was our original goal. Now I'm going to have to greatly paraphrase here since it's not in front of me, but generally the council goal was to support, to be supportive and find opportunities for both for recreation, both for our youth and for our seniors. In our January retreat from 25, when we talked about our seniors, what was the direction we wanted to go? Recognizing at the time, certainly our primary focus has been from that point even up to, just before now, getting some youth recreation had been the priority. But At the same time, we also we recognized we wanted to, we were going to create a website that identified the various service providers in the area and what kind of services are available. We also were going to do a research of what those service providers are, and then do evaluation of possible partnerships as well as our current partnership with the our community connections place. So on these things, and this is kind of why we want to move forward, because of those three things we talked about, what was that, about a year and a half ago, we either have finished it all or will be close to being done with those by the end of the month. And so we're really to that next step of direction of where we want to go in continuing the discussion and moving forward that goal on senior recreation. I think I do want to mention as a side also, some of these things, as I mentioned, have we have taken a back seat a bit to youth recreation, and so the exciting thing with youth recreation, obviously, we executed the thing with the agreement with the Y, and so now we have our. We're starting this summer to see those programs, and July 20th, I believe, is our first summer mini camp. We're going to have 3 summer mini camps. So July 20th is volleyball. So certainly that's exciting to get that kicked off. And also, if anyone out there listening is interested in getting some kiddos playing volleyball, reach out to the YMCA, and you also on our webpage we have the links to those registrations as well. But it's the 3, just a reminder for folks, the 3 youth programs are volleyball, then we're going to have a soccer camp, and then a flag football camp. So all of those should be great programs. But with that, now we have had our focus on our website support, and all that has been to make sure we're integrating with both the marketing and the links to the YMCA for our youth. Now that we are kicking that off, hey, look at that, we have a presentation. We are getting ready to now implement the senior recreation page, which is consolidating the various information we have, providing links to folks to look at that. But let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Some of these we've already blown through a little bit, but and I assume council can see this okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've talked about the goals or our formats. Let's move to the next slide. And then here talks about our the resolution that we've gone over already. And then this is what we talked about was our goals from the outcomes from our January 25 retreat now. So now let's look, kind of looking at our various partners and what our current model service is. Community Connection Place is our primary partner for senior services in the with University Place. They are operating out of our senior center. One of the issues we'll go over the services that they provide, but also we want to talk about, there is it's either an opportunity or a decision point we do need to make by the end of the year. The current lease does end at the end of the year. At that point, we have basically 3 options. We can continue the lease at month to month, just basically status quo. We can, go and do a lease amendment to modify things if appropriate, or we could do an RFP to open the door for more providers. And there's plus and minuses with each of those options. One of the big thing, and I know many of the council members in your reports talked about the SHAG groundbreaking, and SHAG is not only going to be a big service for and a place for seniors to be, it also is an opportunity for partnership for senior recreation services in our community, and they are already looking at doing some partnership with Community Connections Place as well as the city for senior housing. So we do anticipate by the time SHAG gets online that will be a great addition to senior services in the city. And then we do have we can talk a little bit about the lease agreement. Although in general, I don't know, in general, the lease agreement itself, I don't know what their next slide page is, if we want to. Okay, so this talks about the different options. So we do have the term ends at the end of the month or end of the year, and it could go we have the ability to go month to month thereafter. Right now, the term is we get $1 a month. They do have to pay leasehold excise tax and any utility costs and taxes, which can't be specifically attributed to the tenant. I think that those taxes, the miscellaneous taxes, I think are about $30 or so a month. The leasehold excise tax is something that Community Connections Place are working at getting exemption on, and they hope to have an answer on that hopefully by the end of the month. But so that has been a challenge for them, I know, because that came into effect the beginning of this year, and it was quite a big jump in the amount that they were paying. Let's go to the next slide here. So, and this just talks about in the terms. So you have the utilities and the maintenance are at the tenant's expense, and then the one thing, and this really argues to probably not just continue month to month. I think really our two options should be an amendment or an RFP. But when I talk about amendment is our original agreement really is pretty non-specific to the senior services. It really relied on the terms of a CDBG agreement for which we obtained some funding, in which we had to continue operation of that facility in a similar manner. However, that agreement now has fulfilled its obligations, so it's not really pertinent to be part of this lease. So I think it would make sense if we do want to go the route of a amendment to be a little bit more specific on what our expectations for senior services. Now, in there is a provision in the lease that does indicate that it would be considered a default of the lease if the tenant ceases to offer senior programs for 15 consecutive days. So there is some terms, but it would be, I think, beneficial for all parties to have a clear expectation of what we're looking at. And I do want to have a huge caveat is that, and we'll talk in the later slides, Community Connections Place has been doing a good job providing senior services, have been very consistent with what we've done in the past. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying they haven't been doing that, but they have been. It would be good in our agreement to firm it up so our expectations are right. There was some additional clarifications done in the 2022 amendment, talked about some sustainable programming. That could be a possibility for having some additional third party be able to use this facility, and then also there's a requirement for some annual reporting and talking about different type of like the demographics, the client served, and so forth. If we go to the next slide here.
Jack, before you go to that next slide, on that bullet point under 2022 amendment, the first bullet point, what was meant at that time for the creation of a user group to provide that?
Yeah, and that had to do, and is, that might be a good question for Matt, but I believe it had to do with, there was some, at the time, there was a group of seniors that thought they weren't being, wasn't responsive to their concerns, is my understanding. And so they wanted to have more input to operation and be able to have that. But, and I believe since we implemented this provision, we haven't heard that complaint or concern expressed. So although I don't have specific details on how that user group has worked, at least the end results have been, we haven't had the same concerns that were raised prior to that provision.
Yeah.
And then I know Mayor Pro Tem has her hand up.
Yeah, and and I can intercede, as Jack's recollection is largely the same as mine on that point. The paragraph related to the user group reads simply, and it's a long sentence because I wrote it. there's something in there. CCP shall form a user group with community stakeholders which are identified as primary users of the community center and shall work in good faith with said user group to provide input on programming which is sustainable within available resources and identifying methods to enhance existing means of communicating the services offered. So that's the clause in there. And Jack's recollections I shared a moment ago was the same as ours, or same as mine rather, in that we had heard that there was a group of seniors that felt unsatisfied, I think is probably the polite way to put it, with the services being offered. So if you're offering senior services, open it up, hear from folks. Overarching both the original lease and the lease amendment, and Jack touched on this briefly, it is phrased in the term of a lease agreement, which is to say, here's the space, you are leasing the space, landlord-tenant relationship, as opposed to what you might see more of a service contract or what we do with a RFP, RFQ, where we're hiring a contractor or the like. Those sort of contractor-y type provisions, with maybe the exception of this and a few other clauses, aren't necessarily prevalent. Certainly not in the original lease. And the lease amendment introduces some of them in there. So when Jack's talking about the various options, that's what it's kind of really more getting to.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I do recollect the group of seniors that wanted to enhance and improve the services there. What that turned into is a survey. So once or twice a year, I'm not sure how often it's done, but she provides a survey to the seniors for X amount of time, let's say 30 days, and then she'll glean that and incorporate some of their ideas, because their ideas and their needs and their wants and desires always changes over time. And the other concern I have with the month to month with a nonprofit that's based on grants is that'll be a lot harder. It's hard to get grants now. Be really, I think, not doing them a disservice to do it on a month to month. I think that will be a stumbling block to get the almost any grant, small, medium, or large. So that's something when you renegotiate the lease agreement is or they go month to month to ensure you have that conversation, because we want sustainability. And it won't be sustainable on a month to month because she's primarily now grant funded. So thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. I think although we frame it because there are three options, I think really there really are two options of what to do. It's renegotiate a term, because I think for both parties it's the way to go, or you open up as a different direction. But the month to month at this point would only be a stopgap measure if we haven't reached the amendment agreement. For like if we need another 30 days or something like that to do that. But yeah, so moving on, I want to review, go over what are the activities we're currently providing, or the CCP is currently providing. And I won't go in detail of each of these, but this shows, they have various activities. Some of them are every day of a week. Some of them are like in this case, you have something on the second and fourth Monday, and then there's another thing on the second Monday. Go to the next, so there's some tech support, book clubs. You have some gaming times, on Tuesdays. You have some other activities on Wednesdays. Keep going to the next one, and this shows Thursdays with some art and dominoes. And if you go to our last one, I think it shows Fridays. And Fridays is the most popular event that they have. That's both the bingo as well as the lunch that's with which is coordinated with Catholic Community Services. But the reason I want to show this is I want to stress that the activities they're providing are comparable to the amount of activities and services we were providing prior to our recreation program, our city-run recreation programs stopping, with the exception of We did offer tours and trips, and then also we had some offerings of, like instructor-led classes. So those are the two things that aren't being provided, but the rest of the items are very comparable, and I certainly would say that they are meeting the, even though the agreement doesn't have a lot of specifics, they are certainly meeting the spirit of what we had asked for in the agreement, or the intent for them to provide these senior services. And also just to give an idea of participants, so for 2025, they do track the number of participants per event. So it doesn't, these numbers don't necessarily account for people or doing multiple events, but at least for each event total, they have in 25 they ranged from 266 up to 470 participants per month, ranging, obviously the months will vary, and then the annual total of participants was about 4,200. Now, one of the a big caveat on those numbers too. It also it doesn't track necessarily just unique members, but also it. In any of these type of programs, you have a voluntary please sign in this sign-in sheet. And so there's, Sheila at CCP has indicated that there are times often that they'll have participants that don't sign in. So we're probably missing, they probably have more participants than these numbers indicate, but it does show that there is some support in there. And then they do also, in addition to these weekly scheduled calendar events, they will also have, occasional special events as well. And that's reflected in these numbers, the total participants overall. So moving on to the next slide, we can, this talks about, this are the research of the other service providers, and then this will also be captured on that web page that we anticipate having live by the end of the month. So you have the various, a lot of our counterparts around the area with Fircrest, Tacoma, Lakewood, Puyallup, Gig Harbor. Now, obviously, probably Tacoma, Fircrest, and Lakewood are going to be the most accessible to our residents by proximity. But there are some good opportunities for these other groups as well. If we move to the next page, we also have some of the services that are provided, because not only is it important to have the access to what are the senior programs, but also how you get to them. Like, so you have transportation, you have some meal services, you have some, some adult care options, and so we also wanted to provide those as a link, so we have a single location for folks to be able to find some of that. So kind of like a comprehensive area that they can find it. Moving to the next page, we have with our current program, and really this has to mostly do with the location itself, although there are the first two at least. So the senior center is not the youngest building in the world. It does need maintenance, and that has been a concern of the CCP folks. Of those costs continue to increase for them as part of their responsibility to lease, and so long term, there will be some maintenance needs that need to be done on the building. It also has a lot of challenges with parking, and with the development across the street. We have had overflow parking that was in those gravel lots, which now with SHAG and the other things going in won't be available anymore. So parking will be a challenge that we need to figure out a long-term solution of. And then there are limited financial resources, both from the city and for CCP. And so, how do we overcome those? Certainly, I think SHAG will help with that, but that's a couple of years down. And so, there's, probably we want to look at what can we do. I know Sheila with CCP has been successful at some grants and has been looking for some others. Are there ways that the city can help with that success? So those are things that we need to look at. But those are the three biggest challenges at that location. Now, there's certainly benefits for the senior center, that location, especially the proximity to the SHAG building. But these challenges, I don't want to sugarcoat them. They are going to be tricky to address. So let's move to the next slide, if we could. So now we just want to kind of look at, in our, as I mentioned, we've kind of checked the boxes, or about to check the boxes of the previous direction. So what's, what are the thoughts for moving forward? So as we mentioned, we're going to have that website, and we want to make sure that it's easy to follow, easy to understand. But in addition to the website, we also are going to look at other ways to reach the senior community, because we recognize, although seniors are becoming more and more tech savvy every day, but there still is not as it is also a challenge. Sometimes the websites and various links are sometimes a barrier, certainly for many seniors. So we also want to look at other ways to be able to get information to folks. And then, as I mentioned, we have to look at, do we maintain the status quo, renew the lease, or basically amend the lease. And then, if we do that, I think we do want to look at, are there ways to help some of the financial issues, both from the city and Community Connections, to help make that program continue to be successful? Or do we want to shift gears and do a different search where we look at we reach out to community input of if there are additional services they want to see? Do we look at a different model altogether? So those are kind of the direction points. And really, just because we have the end of the lease at the end of the year, we really need to get certainly in the next few months, that decision of which way we need to go has to be kind of determined fairly. It would be nice to be able to have a direction by the fall, so that then we have time to be able to negotiate that next. There won't be a lot of financial numbers in the lease. We don't have much money in that anyway. But more of, basically, so we're all on the same page on what are the expectations for the renewal of the lease. So, and then what's our next? I don't know if we have another slide on this, or is that the last one? Maybe the last one. So anyway, with that, I think I will open. I'd like to answer any questions, but also open the floor to just discussion.
Okay, Jack. Thank you for not only presenting a balanced, I think, presentation there, but giving the council a good broad insight as to where we are, what are some of the challenges that we face, and then how do we start laying a path forward in this discussion of what we're going to do. I just want to make a couple of quick comments, and then we'll open it up for everyone to weigh in. But, one, to start with, no question there's some challenges with funding for CCP. I think up until now, they've been a very good, for lack of a better word, partner with our community in providing services to our citizens, in a place for seniors to go, not only to feel some collegiality there, but also to have some activities. I've shared with you previously, I really do oppose eliminating programs here in University Place and telling citizens you can find those resources if you go to other cities, for a couple of reasons. One, especially in Gig Harbor, there's a bridge barrier for seniors to cross. Not all seniors drive, not all seniors have a car. So being able to access these other facilities and programs really requires a high dependency on public transportation, which may or may not work for seniors depending on where they live and what they're doing and what their limitations are that they have there. When we look at options that we have to obviously discuss and decide on, I'm not always in favor of throwing out a relationship that has worked very well for our community just to go find something different and spend a lot of time and energy and resources on. if there's a way to either renew with amending that and then providing some assistance to look for new resources for funding, my preference would be we go in that direction. And if we need to put some guardrails on that with some stipulations for performance, certainly, we should have that conversation. So that's I'll lay that out there for the council to chew on, and then we can kind of go back and forth, good, bad, or indifferent from there, if that makes sense. Okay? We'll start with Council Member Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with looking at the current operator to continue what's been going on, I think, with a little bit, like what's been mentioned, with renewed interest and purpose. But I think that seniors, at least the ones that I've seen go there, probably it will be considered a disruption. And so, and that's one of the things that, of all the things you want to do or don't want to do with seniors is to disrupt their schedule, disrupt who they have to talk to or who they're going to show up and do things for them. The staff person, Sheila, currently doing this, very well-known face and a well-known smile. And we may have some mishaps, but who doesn't when you're running a small business? But certainly she has the hearts of those seniors that go there. The reason it's popular and the reason the numbers that are there is because of her. I don't know what will happen. I mean, I'm sure there's always somebody around the corner, but if we don't have to, why make the disruptions? I haven't heard, unless it's being kept secret, that we have an operator that treats our building appropriately and professionally. I haven't heard that it's been beat up and not cleaned up, and I haven't heard that it's been trashed by the operator. I haven't heard that there's mistreatment of our citizens or senior citizens, and verbally or otherwise. Those are the main things that I look for someone that is trying to provide some fun for our senior citizens. So to me, just find I think that the month-to-month is a little bit harsh because, like Councilmember McCluskey said, and as we all know, that makes it hard if you're trying to get some grants. But I also would like to maybe have staff explore how. I know SHAG isn't coming on board until a couple of years. It doesn't mean that they would maybe a conversation could be had with them to see how they would be partners with this current operator and ramping up to what they're going to be doing. Maybe not as full force as they may when they open their doors, but maybe in some way they could be ramping up as part of their strategy in opening those apartments. So I think that should be kept in mind and see if there's any help from that area. I think it's a good promotion for them and a good practice run, and because we don't ever know if the current operator, I'm going to just say Sheila, but the current operator, that she may not want to or may not be able to in the future in 2 years for whatever reason. It'd be nice if someone has in 2 years is going to have 100% interest in seniors right across the street that could just take over and has been exposed to the seniors that have been coming, exposed to them by name, by recognition, and maybe what their likes or don't likes through that survey. They can prepare how they might help just by participating and being part of those surveys and seeing what comes out of them. So I think that finding a way to clean up the agreement with the current operator and maybe add with what SHAG can do would be a good way to move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I do concur with Councilmember Figueroa's analysis and the mayor's analysis that working with the current senior provider, she has kept the door open when we pulled recreational services from our city back in like 2014-ish, something like that. Mm-hmm. And she's been keeping the doors open even through COVID, being creative and then trying to get the seniors back, because to Councilmember Figueroa's point, once the seniors break the behavioral habit, it's hard to re-engage them back into their routine. We know that from our own experiences too, right? But seniors are especially hard, and we want to get them out the door in a social environment that's having fun, engaging their brain, a little bit of movement to their body, so they could feel part of the social fabric in our community. Because that is getting back to health and all policies. That's how that all happens, with some proactive part and some thoughtfulness to set the stage for that to occur. And as we're doing with our youth, we cannot forget our seniors. You know, we cannot have a break in services. We must keep that door open. And the partnership with SHAG is also interesting, because SHAG needs a nonprofit. And I like the nonprofit to be in our city, so that they're not looking within a radius outside of it, so that we have a viable senior program within the boundaries of a University Place. Doing a survey as to what the seniors would like, I think might be interesting too. It might spur some other seniors to come to Community Connection Place. With that survey, they may not know that it even exists. You know, the marketing is sometimes pretty limited. As we know, we can do a ton of marketing, and there's always someone that says, I didn't hear that this event was happening. So it's the same sort of dynamics, even more so since some of them are not engaged with their electronics. The other part that I've heard Community Connection Place quite interested in, and going after grants after grants after grants, is to get a van, because that would be a game changer for the types of programs they can offer. They can do field trips and also provide transport to seniors that have no other alternatives as well. So with that, circling back to the maintenance and repairs of the building, that is a undue hardship. It is an old building, and she acquired it as such, and it has, as all buildings do, deteriorate through time. And as we all know, especially Mr. Eklund, about the cost of getting contractors and repairs and services out there has been exponentially increasing. So in creating, I like to create a service model that includes some skin in the game for University Place. You know, it is our building at the end of the day. You know, what does that service model look like with SHAG, with Community Connection Place, and create that, and what does that really look like, and bring that model back to council, or maybe some choices within that model, so that we are not forcing ourselves on it. We're allowing the guidance of the experts, the SHAG, Community Connection Place, our citizens in our community, to come together and create a robust and more vibrant program than what is currently available now. Not to say that Community Connection Place hasn't tried their hardest, and they have created wonderful events and programs that occur that draws a lot of people, as you mentioned, in just the 4,200 participants. Close my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have some comments that touch on similar ground, but I'll start with the options provided. I would be supportive of extending the lease amendment for a period of 2-3 years, whatever would make sense. But what I would like us to do as a city is to use that 2 or 3 years to actually develop a long-term strategic plan, both for senior programming and for the structure it's in right now. I'm really curious. I know it's an old building. I've been in it. It just needs help. Does it have an anticipated life or a certain point in time where maintaining it makes a lot less sense than it would be to repair, replace, or do a major remodel or something like that? I would just love to know how long we could expect to use the building as is and what it would take to do like a remodel versus a replacement versus something like that. And I also think we have an opportunity here with SHAG coming in across the street. We know they're going to be done in about 2 or so years with their project. And at that time, I'd like us to do a kind of a comprehensive look as a city just on that area, not just the building, but say, for example, do we want to throw in a pedestrian crosswalk that connects the parking lot of SHAG directly across the street? I don't know if that makes sense from the distance from the corner, but it's something I think we could look at. It's already been brought up that we have restricted parking. We could look at perhaps engaging public transit agencies to provide transit that would help us bring people there so they don't have to drive and park if they can. But I think a comprehensive look and a long-term strategic plan, say 5 to 10 years, for our senior programming might be a value add. And I would love to see us use the next 2-3 years to do that. That concludes my comments, Mayor.
Great comments. Thank you very much. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with a lot of things that have been said by my colleagues tonight. I want to say I think Community Connection Place has been a wonderful partner. I think Sheila's greatest gift is her tenacity to keep going and her ability to see people. When you walk into that senior center, she knows you by name. She sees people, and that's so important for our seniors to be seen. When we're talking about people, though, for those watching as well, this is 19.5% of our residents in University Place. 6,800 people fall into 65 and over in our community. So when you put that number of people that we need to serve well, it's important. And I am so grateful for Community Connection Place. I think they're a great partner. I would, as has been said, be in favor of continuing a lease, but also look at how we can enhance that, because in my humble opinion, there's more that we can do. I think we're limiting ourselves when we think about just that building. Yes, that building needs work, but we also have wonderful parks that we can utilize and take tours and trips to. We have a beautiful atrium that we can utilize. We have a library that we can utilize. So I think we need to enhance what also Community Connection Place could do. I think when they say they need a van, it's for practical reasons. When we have great partners like Dance Theater Northwest having a free event on August 8th in our atrium, we should find a way for our seniors to be a part of that. I hope that's being advertised at Community Connection Place. There's a lot of crossovers that are already happening in our city that seniors might not know about, that we need to take advantage. And I think that could be part of a conversation with Sheila and Community Connection Place, how we can make some of those natural things come together. As we're talking about SHAG coming in as a great partner, I think that's an awesome avenue to go down as well. All of these things take time, but what can we do right now to better serve the 6,800 people in our community? Jack talked about tours. Thank you, Jack, for your report, and thank you for taking time to be here while you're away. But previously we offered tours and trips. I think we need to bring that back. That's huge. We had instructors. We need to bring that back. There's partners that we can talk to. I think we were creative with our youth recreation program. That took some time to get it back. This is the next worthy endeavor. We need to do more. The information, the website is great, enhancing that. I agree. Seniors are getting more savvy every day, but if we could have regular information going out in our mailers as well that is already going out to our residents, I think that would be an added way to have that in print, another way for our seniors to read it. But when we say maintain the status quo, when I see that up there, yes, maintain, but not the status quo. I think we can do better. We should do better. Our seniors deserve it. And there's easy opportunities, easy wins. So thank you to Councilmember Wood. I think looking at a strategic plan over the next 2 years, but in my personal opinion, we can do things even quicker that are easy add-ons, added value to what we already have and what we're already utilizing here, Atrium and other places. So I hope that we can increase the level of service for those seniors. So thank you. That's all I have.
Hey, thank you. Before we go to Councilman Boykin, Jack, I had a quick question for you because we've talked a lot about the wear and tear on the facility, and it's an old building and what have you. But I do recall back in the early 2000s, the city did rehab that building with a new kitchen, bathrooms. I believe there was a HVAC floor and a roof. Am I close to that?
Yeah, there's a number of things we did, and that was partly tied to that CDBG agreement. So it was, a little over 20 years ago, so probably very early 2000s, I think. And so, we have put some money in it. It does still wear. I think when we make a decision about are we, either the city or CCP, putting in additional money for rehab or remodel of the building, we also have to look at comprehensively, the parking is such a challenge. So we could have the greatest building in the world, but if nobody can get there to, park or access it, it may not make sense. So we need to really look at both of those things hand in hand. How do we both maintain the building and also figure out a way to maintain access and parking and other kind of improvements to the building.
Yeah. I agree with that, but I think we have perhaps one of the smartest traffic engineers in our city. Do I need to mention his name? That can take a look at that. We can use what we currently have, but we've got another facility right next door. Perhaps we can talk about parking there. We can maybe talk with SHAG as they're building out their facility if there's an opportunity there. So there may be some more parking opportunities that we're just not looking at the moment, along with, I believe what was mentioned earlier with Councilmember Wood on public transportation and other amenities there that we have. Okay, so with that, Councilmember Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. Excellent presentation, Jack. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Excuse me, Mayor, point of order. I'm sorry. We're at 8:46, and the meeting was supposed to adjourn at 8:45, as I recall. Could we get a motion for extend?
I'll take a motion to extend for 10 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I think it's properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. Jack, I was alluding to you bringing forward an excellent presentation. And so there are 2 or 3 things I want to make sure I highlight just to be sure that folks are understanding why I would anchor really the latter comments by Councilmember Rossi and Councilmember Wood as being extremely important. It seems to me that we've got a challenges page where specifically it was the senior sitter building condition, the limited parking, limited financial resources. We also had a scenario where there had been a question raised about a user group that had been articulated as, putting it lightly, they just had not been satisfied. All I know for sure is being extremely appreciative of when anybody steps forward and provides support services, particularly when there is a great need, should not be minimized. And I want to make sure that I'm saying that so that there is real clarity about the appreciation of CCP. But I also know that when we start believing that what we have right now is the best that we can do, or the expectation of we can clearly understand what it is that seniors want to do without having asked them in the present day about how they move and what they would like to engage in and how they connect. We're missing a significant opportunity. And if we're interested in making sure that we keep creating the place of destination, the City of University Place, that is attractive, not taking for granted what it is that seniors are thinking, but actually asking them, as has been suggested, and then making it a point to ensure that we are not missing the opportunity to connect that with the possibility of how it is that SHAG has come into play and the 2-year opportunity and what that means in terms of information and data points that we could identify, as well as what other service providers could offer up, because they recognize that we have new information and we have an intentionality of ensuring that we're centering what seniors think today, as well as recognizing we've got challenges that we have already identified that we want to solve. So before, in my view, that we lean on our own understanding of how it's been, that we make it a point to lean into what could be and ensure that we've got the people who most importantly would benefit from their voices being heard and the expectation of ensuring that we're coming alongside them with real intentionality of ensuring that we can get this thing not just right, but moving it much closer to perfection. The expectation about there is even how we could affirm to take care of the senior center building condition right now, for me, is just a little bit forward when there's an opportunity for us to get a much more comprehensive way and strategic way to move forward so that we've solved a really important, impactful moment again in our city when it comes to an audience that we know we covet and that we have elevated with intentionality. So those are my comments. Thanks so much, Mayor, for giving me a chance to share.
All right, thank you, Councilman Boykin. You know, Jack, what it looks like, what I hear from council is, you know, they want to continue. It's a consensus here to continue with our current partner, you know, and to seek the funding that's needed to not only continue programs but promote programs and develop a strategic plan to lay out a pathway to go forward. I think that's kind of some guidance to you as well as our city attorney and others who you may pull into that. But if I've misspoken anything here, I don't see anyone nodding against. Does that give you enough guidance tonight?
Yeah, I think so. And then we'll, I think it sounds like our next steps would be getting ready to do, you know, come up with a lease type of amendment, you know, before the end of the year. But yeah, we definitely, and all the input, definitely, I think we have good direction. Okay. Matt, do you feel, I want to make sure, I don't want to speak for our city attorney. Matt, are you comfortable?
Generally speaking, although I wasn't asked for a lease term recommendation, the 2 to 3 years is what I was rattling in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. There are some preconditions I would want before we recommend to council a new lease, actually for signature, and we can cover that in the course of negotiations. I don't want to be in a situation where we're negotiating terms in public with an anticipated provider, recognizing that CCP has had a lease with the city in one form or another for almost 10 years. We theoretically would be doing another couple more years. My understanding is the original lease was a no-bid lease. I don't think there were any other competitors. So just recognize that we do have an asset out there. But we'll put our thoughts together in terms of an appropriate lease that I think we can feel comfortable with while balancing the various needs associated with the facility, long-term strategy, and everything else under the sun. So.
Much appreciated. I know the council's already weighed what those other options were tonight, yeah. And I think they've given pretty clear guidance for how they want to proceed. Councilman Grassi.
Mayor, I just have a question.
You have like 1 minute.
When will we have this? When will it come back? When can we expect to see it? I just want to make sure I'm on record as saying I'm not comfortable with it. This is the gold standard yet, you know, so. When do
We're going to have some chats with the current operator because while we've had the chat with council, we have not had the chat with her. And a negotiation by definition involves two parties. We also heard from council that it wants some input associated with SHAG. The thought is it would come in the fall. I think the last ones have come in at around in the November-December time frame. Prior to that, I'd have to check the calendar. Don't hold me to that as I'm sitting here with 1 minute left on the clock. But we can circle back with you on that. But okay. It would probably be late fall, very early, let's call it late fall, just for calendaring purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Seeing that there's no further business before council, the council stands adjourned.